Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts, in the shadow of the Great Blue Hills. We are so delighted and so very honored that you'll join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Tell your kids, teachers, principals, and librarians. And please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Himalaya, Ghana, Podcast Addict, Good Pod, wherever you find your podcast. We want to invite all the authors and aspiring authors who are listening to the podcast to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Please be sure to click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to discover how we can help you celebrate your book with the entire world. Now, you know, if you are an author, especially an independent or self-published author, you probably had no idea that when you were writing your book and getting it published, you had no idea that once that book was published, that you became the CEO of a small business, your book business. Yeah, it is. It's a business now. And you had no idea that there are literally thousands of books published every single... You thought I was going to say year. No, there are thousands of books published every single month. It is so hard for a book to stand out in that crowd, especially an independent or sub-published book. But we would love to help you do that. If you visit readingwithyourkids.com and click on that Authors Click Here button, you will discover how you can be a guest here on the podcast. Being a guest gives you the chance to tell the world all about your book. It's fun, it's easy, and it doesn't cost you a thing. You can also learn about our Certified Great Read program. This is a program that has helped so many authors. You can also discover our monthly promotion program. We're really excited. We've helped so many authors to date, and we would love to help you. Please go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on that Authors Click Here button at the top of the page, and discover how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. Join us right now from the beautiful state of Virginia. Our guests are here today to celebrate their great new book. It's called Dork Diaries number 15, Tales from the Not-So-Posh Paris Adventure. Please welcome first the author, Rachel Renee Russell. Hey, Rachel, how are you?
I'm wonderful. So happy to be here.
I'm delighted to have you here, and I am also delighted that your daughter and illustrator are also joining us, Nikki Russell. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, how are you, Jed?
I am wonderful. Thank you both so much for being here. First, why don't we start with Rachel. Rachel, tell us all about Dork Diaries.
Well, Dork Diaries is a 15-book series, and the newest book just came out last Tuesday. And we're on a national book tour. But Dork Diaries was inspired by my daughter, Nikki. And growing up, she was always very tall for her age. Her dad is like 6'4", so she inherited his tall genes. But because she was so tall, even in kindergarten, she was kind of made fun of and bullied through elementary school and middle school. So when my daughters grew up and went into college, and I had empty nest syndrome, I thought, I have all this time on my hands. What am I going to do? So that's when I decided to pursue the hobby of writing a children's book. And I wanted to write something inspirational, and I wanted it to be something that could help children or make their lives better. So that's when I thought I would take some of the challenges that Nikki had growing up, kind of being teased, bullied, and called a dork. And put that into a book, add a lot of humor, and put it out in the world to hopefully inspire and motivate kids who were going through, similar challenges, trying to fit in at school and, maybe being bullied or teased. So that was the whole point of Dork Diaries, was to, at some point, hopefully help other children that had the same challenges that Nikki did, trying to fit in at school.
Well, what a great motivation and inspiration for the book. And I love the fact that this was a hobby for you, and
It turned
you into a nationwide bestseller. So that's really good.
Exactly. Because I'm originally a consumer bankruptcy attorney, and the Dork Diaries, the first Dork Diaries book, made the New York Times bestsellers list the first week it was out. So I'm like, okay, I'll retire from the attorney stuff and write children's books in my pajamas for the rest of my life. So I was able to switch over careers. I think I was like 48, and I switched over from a full-time consumer bankruptcy attorney to a full-time children's author once it hit the New York Times bestsellers. And I thought, I can probably do this and eat and pay my bills, so I think I'll switch over. I love being a consumer bankruptcy attorney, but nothing beats being a children's author and being able to work at home and then work with my daughter as well. That was a nice career change.
That is really wonderful. I love that story. Nikki, I have no idea what it's like growing up tall. I am vertically challenged, and I'm at the point in my life right now where every time I go to the doctor, he says, "Oh, you're now 5'5", and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I was an inch tall last year. I can't be going backwards."
I know you're shrinking, huh?
I made the mistake one minute, probably 10, 15, maybe even 20 years ago. I picked up a couple. A couple was going to come and speak to our church group. And took them out to lunch, and they were sharing a little bit about their family. And they said, "Oh, my daughter is in 6th grade, and she's like 5'11". And I said, "Wow, that's fantastic." And they said, "No, it's not. It's terrible."
Especially for a girl too.
Yeah, and I'm like,
aspiring to be on a basketball team, maybe, but
that's I never thought that being tall would be a detriment. So can you talk, we've had books on talking about kids who were short and made fun of. This is absolutely the first time we've talked about the difficulties and the challenges of being tall. So can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's basically anything that makes you stick out like a sore thumb. Kids tend to gravitate toward and find a way to tease you for it. That's how being tall made me a target for bullying growing up. So I was taller than a lot of the kids at my school, and I guess it didn't help that I was still finding my own style and my own voice. And I was a theater kid. I worked extra hard to keep good grades, and there were kids that just wanted to tear me down because of that. So it all kind of created a perfect storm, but my test ended up being a testimony because I learned a lot that I could share in our book series to teach kids not to give up whenever they're made fun of, and to continue to be their own authentic selves, and to keep smiling and keep being friendly, and to ignore the bullies.
Well, I think that's really great advice. And isn't it odd that we spend so much time as kids trying to fit in and trying not to stick out, trying not to get noticed. And then suddenly now with social media and stuff, now everybody wants to be unique and find their own style. Like, look at me.
Supermodels and pictures of their breakfast and, whatever.
Yeah, dorks tend to be ahead of their time. Like, I remember being in high school, and before backpacks with wheels became popular, I was using what you'd normally use at an airport, like a backpack, because I had so many heavy books. So I figured I'd just stuff them into this mini carry-on bag and roll it around through the hallway. I got made fun of for it. But now somebody's making millions off of the invention because it's really useful for kids to get all that heavy load off their back and just wheel it around.
Absolutely. Like 20 years ahead of her time.
Yeah. I think that is really innovative. I really wish we could sit down and maybe talk to teachers about, like, do kids really need to carry 50 pounds of books on their back every day?
I mean, some of the kids are like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
Got like 40 pounds of books on their back.
Yeah, maybe back 100 years ago when I was around, and, books are written in papyrus, But nowadays we got, like, digital stuff and,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I carry around my Kindle. I have about 150 books in my Kindle. It's light as a feather.
Exactly. Yeah.
So book number 15, I imagine maybe one of the questions that you're asked is, how are you getting all this information and inspiration for 15 different versions of this book? Nikki, was life so terrible that, you just have, is there 25 more issues?
Well, we'll keep writing as long as kids and parents are buying the book. So there may be a Dork Diaries book 30. Who knows? But for right now, a lot of basically Dork Diaries is a fiction book, but a lot of the major plot points and some of the most hilarious adventures are based on things that have happened to either Nikki and during her life or my life. And since I'm old, there's a lot of stuff I can pull from. But yeah, a lot of the books are based on things and that have happened to us, and we take it, of course, we make it bigger and bolder and badder and more dramatic, and then we put it in the book. And we've been going, this will be next year will be our 15th year writing, and this is book 15, though there are technically 17 books in the series because we have 2 diary-based books where we encourage kids to actually keep their own diaries and write about their lives. But as long as there's the interest out there, Nikki and I will continue to write.
That's really super. Nikki, I'm curious, did you always aspire to be an illustrator? And I imagine you didn't aspire to illustrate your mom's books, not because she was a lawyer, but was illustrating books something that you were always planning on doing or hoping to do?
Okay, so my story is very similar to my mom's. I actually started off as an elementary school teacher. My major was in elementary education and my minor was in fine arts. So I always kept art and the love of drawing with me since I was a little girl. But my mom needed more help with the book because she went from publishing 1 book to 2 books a year. And that's when she asked me to join the team. And it's been history ever since. And I really enjoy doing what I consider a hobby. It's now a full-time career.
Again, I love that. When I started clowning and performing magic 35 years ago, the idea that it would someday be a profession, lots of people made fun of me. They said, "You're too short to be." No, they said, "How do you make a living doing that?" And somehow we figured it out with the support of my beautiful wife.
Exactly. And that's what Dork Diaries is all about, is taking what it is that you're passionate about and what you love and embracing it and, just having a wonderful life, and being happy. So that's what you've done. Nikki's been able to do that. And that's what we're encouraging kids to read Dork Diaries and to find that spot in their lives where there's joy and happiness.
Yeah. So let's talk specifically about the Not-So-Posh Paris Adventure.
So I'll tell you kind of the long story. Nikki and I were planning a mother-daughter trip to Paris. And we thought, well, since we're going to be going to Paris, why don't we take our characters there too? And it would be cool to write the book and have the inspiration. So because we were going to Paris, we decided to make our 15th book about Nikki Maxwell going to Paris. The only problem we had is that we were planning to leave in May of 2020. And of course, in May of 2020, basically the whole world is shut down. So, and then from COVID, exactly. And basically the book was delayed for a year or two because at one point I thought, well, we have to just get rid of it. We can't do Paris. We haven't been to Paris. How are we going to write a book about Paris? So then we changed it and that wasn't working. So we thought, okay, there's something called Google Images. So we spent a lot of time on Google Images and we were able to pull it together and we were able to it took us a year to 18 months longer than we had planned, but we were actually able to get the book. So Nikki and I never made it to Paris, but Nikki Maxwell and her friends did make it to Paris. And we've been told by people that have finished the book that they all thought we had went because there was so much detail and there was so much authenticity that they believed it. But no, we were stuck here in Northern Virginia for 3 years, but Nikki and her friends made it to Paris.
Well, that is really great. At the pandemic, I think I'm really curious how folks are going to look, 10, 15, 20 years from now.
Yes, I know.
And what they're going to think when they look back at that weird 2 years that we all experienced all throughout the world.
Exactly.
Do you think, and this has nothing to do with Dork Diaries, but do you think that as a people we've learned from the pandemic and can make the world a better place?
I think so. I think the lessons are there. We just have to open our eyes and take the positive out of it. It was a very, very negative time, and there was a lot of death and destruction and whatever. But there was also a lot to be learned about cherishing life and cherishing loved ones, and even the whole fact that we can stay home and the world doesn't end because you're home or because you're working from home or whatever. So there is some good to be gleaned out of all that. And hopefully, as a civilization, and again, the whole thing was worldwide, we can, take those positive lessons out of it.
Yeah.
That it's not all about always, running and traveling and being busy. Sometimes you can just stay home and, spend time with loved ones and people that are important. So that's what I kind of got out of it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be back traveling again, I must admit. And I still want to go to Paris. But
Absolutely.
I agree that, there are positive lessons to be taken
Yeah.
from. And most, even negative things in life, you can. And that's the whole, again, concept of Dork Diaries, even though it's about bullying and kids being teased, you can take that negativity and add a lot of humor and then tell a very positive and inspiring story that can motivate children. That's what we've been able to do with Dork Diaries.
Rachel, one of the things that my daughter, who I love and spend a lot of time with, she's come out on the road with me. She went to a very unique international high school, and so she had lots of vacation times when the kids would travel back home to China or India or Italy. So she would come out on the road with me for 3 weeks at a time or so, and she learned very quickly that whatever happens to us, whether it's negative or positive at the time, it can be a good story. And that makes it positive at the time. If you have that mindset, is that something you're hoping kids can take from Dork Diaries, knowing that, this is really hard right now, you're sticking out, kids are kind of making fun of you, it's not really easy being in school right now, but someday you're going to be able to look back at this and laugh and smile and share this story?
Most definitely. And even on a more minute aspect of it is if you can even get from Monday through Friday, things will be better on Friday or it'll be better on Wednesday. So that's our message too, is just to hang in there and take it day by day. And tomorrow will be better, or next week will be better, next month, or even maybe next year will be better. So, because otherwise kids can get despondent and they can get depressed and they can just give up, and and we don't want them to do that. We want them to hang in there. So yes, a major theme of Dork Diaries is that things will be better tomorrow. So just, get through the day, go to bed, get up, and, hopefully things will be better. And ultimately they do get better.
Nikki, I'm curious. You shared with us a moment ago that you, before illustrating full-time this series, you were an elementary school teacher, and that kind of surprised me since school was so difficult for you. Did you become an elementary school teacher because you wanted to let kids know that things could get better, or were you just intent on being a teacher and getting back at all those kids who were mean?
So I definitely wanted to encourage kids and let them know things would get better. I also wanted to help kids who had a difficult time reading and learning. I wanted to reach out to them and help them feel welcomed in the school environment, and help them to realize everything's okay and that they too can succeed. And that's why I cherish being an illustrator so much, because I illustrate a book that reaches reluctant readers. We get a lot of testimonies that children start off being hesitant to read, but once they read our book, they are excited to read and they want to finish the book from cover to cover. It's truly an amazing and inspiring story.
Yeah. Rachel, what is it about your series that you think is so attractive to those reluctant readers, the kids who normally don't love reading? They fall in love with your books.
I think number one, it's It has characters that they can relate to. So we have different ethnicities, girls, boys. We have, there's a girl that uses a wheelchair. So we try to, look around and see the kids that are out there and put characters very similar to them in the book. So that's the first thing, is that kids relate to Nikki Maxwell, the main character, and other characters, and they see themselves in the book. Number two, it's funny. So even though Nikki, may have gone through a very negative experience, either she has a sense of humor about it, or will tell the story in a really funny manner. And number three, it has life experiences, and the Nikki Maxwell's going through three things that they've gone through. They're having to deal with their parents. They have younger siblings that are kind of bratty. There's the mean girl or the bully at school that they probably have. And then there's the BFFs that are like ride and die and there for them. And so the books are hopefully a reflective of the children reading them. And that was my goal. And I think I've succeeded because, again, we're like at 55 million books in 46 countries in 42 languages. And that the 42 languages blows my mind because, I was just hoping people, if I could get half of the states in the United States reading it, I would have been happy. And here we are, in multiple countries and multiple languages. So not only is Dork Diaries a story that, kids here in the States relate to, kids all over the world relate to it. So it's like mind blowing to me, that the book is having that kind of impact.
That is amazing. 42 languages. What's the...
Yes, I can't even name 42 languages.
Well, I was going to say...
Maybe I can name 10, but I don't even know. It's amazing.
I was going to say, what's the most surprising language that the Dork Diaries has been translated into?
I don't even know. I'm stuttering here. It was fascinating to know that there were 3 Chinese languages. I don't know if I can name them all. There was complex Chinese, simplified Chinese, and then there's a third one. So when the Chinese versions come in, I'm always like, oh my goodness, I thought I got that last month. But there's 3 or 4 versions of Chinese, simplified, complex, and I think there's either 1 or 2 other ones. Mm-hmm. So that was fascinating to me that it's not just Chinese. There's like 4 different ones, and there are 4 different volumes and 4 different versions. Let me see, I don't know if it's probably some of the teeny tiny countries, like, can you think of I won't say Romania, I don't know, but sometimes we'll get the smaller, Bulgarian or European countries that are, teeny tiny, and they'll have a version of the book.
That's really is amazing. Dork Diaries, what a great franchise. Any hopes that it becomes an animated series or movie Movie,
yes. As a matter of fact, I've had 3 movie deals, and the last one, and I want a theatrical release. I mean, no hate to like network television or streaming, but I just envision it in theaters and the big screen and the popcorn and the little velvet seats or whatever they have in theaters nowadays, especially for girls, because you'll get movies, with boy main characters or animals or whatever, but you don't get a lot of theatrical releases that have girls, tween girls, young adult girls. Oh my gosh, you have your Twilights and, those are blockbusters. But for the age group that I'm writing for, which is like 8 to 14-year-olds, you don't get a lot of big blockbuster movies or even small movies in theaters featuring that age range. So I'm very, very adamant about getting a theatrical release, which is a movie in theaters. And my last contract, it was in writing, and I thought, finally. And the movies have a 3-year option, which they have 3 years to make up their mind. And then on the very last month or so, they let you know what they're going to do. So I got the good news. They were ready to move forward, but it was a streaming deal. And I'm like, I'm an attorney too. And I'm like, no, this does not say streaming. This says theatrical release. And if it's not a theatrical release, they're like, okay, if you don't want it, then fine. I'm like, bye. So I had no problems walking away and I'm really passionate now that, Dork Diaries be a theatrical release. So.
All right. Hey, Nikki, I'm curious. Your mom is helping kids all over the world in 42 different languages deal with the pain that they might be experiencing being the target of a bully. was she able to help you deal with your years being the target of a bully? And how did she help you?
Most certainly was. She was always that listening ear I could depend on whenever I came home. She would always ask me, "You're welcome," would always ask me, "How was school?" So being as young as I was and as much as I was going through, I might not have always opened up to tell her everything, but eventually I would, because I did need somebody to talk to, and she would be very supportive.
That's
Well,
awesome.
thank you.
That's awesome. She didn't
But
tell
yeah, as a parent, I always thought, what am I doing wrong? What did I like raise her to be, cause I just like she blamed herself for not fitting in. I blame myself as a parent for not maybe instilling in her, coping mechanisms or whatever. But in the end, I was a good parent and she was a good child. It's just that there's like just people out there that are cruel, or that maybe those children, parents need to be doing a better job, not necessarily me, because I raised a kind, smart, generous, wonderful child. And I'm sure every parent thinks that, but I started wondering when she was having so many problems. And her grades were excellent. Teachers loved her, but she just had a hard time dealing with some of the kids in school. But in the end, I think I was a good parent and she was a very good person. It's just those people out there, and there's even as an adult. I mean, I worked at law firms and there were some people that were just terrible. I have had bosses that were terrible. So it's just a fact of life. There's, positive people and there's negative people, and you have to just learn to deal with them and then try to move on or get out of the situation where you have to deal with the negative people on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, I can honestly tell you that all those negative, nasty people were one of the reasons I decided I wanted to be a professional clown and magician.
Exactly, and be your own boss and do your own thing and embrace the dorkiness of, magicians.
Exactly, embrace the dorkiness of magic. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Hey, my friends, where can we go to find out more about Dork Diaries 1 through 15 and plus those other 2 great books?
Exactly. Well, we have a website and it's made for kids, but there's also a section for teachers, and you can order a Dorky Reader Kit if you're a teacher, and we'll send you 4 books and stickers and bookmarks and pencils for your entire class. It's at dorkdiaries.com. So if you go to dorkdiaries.com, Nikki has designed a program where kids can create their own Dork Diaries character. They can make themselves a Dork Diaries character, or they can, so we have that. We have an advice column. Our character, Nikki Maxwell, will, if you write to her or me or Nikki, we'll answer you, email you back. If you write us physically, we send you an envelope with stickers and books. So we just are so passionate about Dork Diaries and our readers that the website is just a wonderful place.
Well, I love it. And I love, Nikki, I hate that you went through that pain, but you've taken those lemons and you made a beautiful lemonade.
Lemonade, exactly.
And I'm so happy. We've had such a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Dork Diaries number 15, Tales from the Not-So-Posh Paris Adventure. Our guests have been Nikki and Rachel Renee Russell. My friends, thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. And I'm interested in saying you're magician and clown and whatever. So the next time you come to Prince William County, you have to, because we're like just 10 minutes away.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you so much.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We are so grateful that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. If you are on LinkedIn, please connect with Jed Doherty. We also have a Reading with Your Kids page on LinkedIn. We would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Authors, click on the Authors Click Here button to find out how you can be a guest here on the show, and find out how we can help you celebrate your book with the world. And also, parents, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com to download our free online magazine. Hey, we want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our amazing guest. I also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Chris Doherty, Ann O'Leary, Soji Franklin. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And thank you so much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.